I now call the City Commission meeting for the City of Johnson City open for this meeting July 7th at 6 o'clock. Would you all please stand for the invocation and please remain standing for the pledge. And tonight's invocation is from Pastor Steve Wheeler from Munsey Memorial United Methodist Church.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, I pray for these elected representatives who serve our community. I pray that each day they serve, you give them wisdom, reminding them of the privilege and honor that it is to serve your people. I pray that you renew their servant hearts, that they will always seek to serve the least and the lost. May they show courage to lead our city in bold and new ways. May they feel your unfailing grace and strength throughout all their days. In your holy and gracious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Ball?
Yes, Vice Mayor, I would request that the agenda be amended and that you consider adding an item 4.2 to the agenda for a consideration of approval of a beer license for off-lease social.
I move to add this to the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor, the first order of business is consideration of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting held on Thursday, June 16th.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Next order of business is item 4.1, consideration of approval of a temporary occasion license for Johnson City Brewing Company, Inc., 257 East Main Street, Johnson City, Tennessee. Staff recommends approval.
Is there someone present for them? You can come forward tonight. If you'll give us your name and address.
Sure. It's Eric Latham, and it's 257 East Main Street.
All right. Have you read the rules and regulations about the sale of alcohol in the city of Johnson City?
Yes.
Do you agree to abide by them?
Yes.
We have a motion.
Move to approve the application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. I think that's all we need.
Want to say a
You
little
want to
bit
tell
about
us
your business?
about your business?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, we just are trying to put on a little local art and music event. It's only kind of a one-day deal, but downtown, and involve some of the other local businesses on Main Street there. As you may know, I don't think there's going to be a little Chicago festival this year, so we wanted to do something in August to get that going and get some businesses a little more business. So
What's the date?
it's August 13th.
Okay.
And it's Majestic Park?
we're trying to do it in Majestic. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Is that Friday 13th?
That'd be Saturday.
Saturday.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Commission, the next order of business is consideration of approval of a permanent beer license for off-lease Leash Social, located at 234 Denny Mill Road, Johnson City, Tennessee.
Applicants here, would you state your name and address for us?
Paul Boynton, 1469 Coffee Ridge Loop in Irwin, Tennessee.
And have you read the rules and regulations about the sale of alcohol in the
I
city
have.
of Johnson City? Do you agree to abide by that?
Absolutely.
All right. Do you have a
Motion for approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, I can't wait to hear about this. I'm on the Animal Control Board, so I've got to know, since this is off leash, about it. We'll vote, and then you can tell
Okay.
us all about it.
Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. You can tell us a little bit about off-leash.
Yeah, off-leash social is a concept that exists in many cities, which kind of marries elements of a dog park with elements of basically an outdoor entertainment facility. So what we've done is we've built a a place where you can bring your dog off leash, but also it's designed for dog owners, for dog lovers. We have lounge seating, music. We'll have special nights. We'll have food trucks. And so really what we're just trying to do is marry the elements. This is a hugely popular, it's colloquially called a bark and brew. And they're sweeping the nation. In fact, I talked to someone today, there's 6 in Washington DC alone. There's 4 in Charlotte. And so this is only the second one I know of in Tennessee, but I also know of many that will be open a year from now, so.
So are there any requirements of the pets before they step on the property?
They have to card them.
Yeah, yeah.
You set my dad, Jeff.
She-
You're
I, was-
only
you were
setting
gonna-
us up.
I knew you were setting it up, I was gonna let you knock it down. So we will have a controlled environment where dogs have to be spayed and neutered. They have to be current and up to date with vaccinations. And there will be a membership for dogs. People can come for free, and we will have a lot of people who come without dogs, just because either you're like our friends, that they don't have a dog, but we insist on hanging out with our dogs, so they'll come to hang out with us, or just proximity. We're really one of the only outdoor kind of social, facilities in that area of town, so.
So we have dogs at the shelter. If you want to send your friends who don't have dogs out,
Well, I was going to
we'll
ask.
adopt one out for them real quick.
We absolutely are looking for many partnerships, and that's obviously one of them, so.
Yeah, I was going to see if there's a shelter day where you could have.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
I mean,
a day
we're-
with the dog or something.
We're dog lovers, and we've tried to build a place for dog lovers, so there's an, an obvious symbiosis there, so.
That
No,
sounds
no.
Your pictures look great. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked through their
I haven't,
packets,
no.
but
Oh.
it's going to be a nice place to gather.
Opening very soon, you register online, so.
So not all people may recognize the address. Where is it located?
Oh, so if you know where the new restaurant Juniper is opening, we are adjacent to them.
Okay.
We're next to Lowe's.
Oh,
We're next to Lowe's on Marketplace Boulevard, but the entrance to our property is off that little service road off Oakland Avenue.
oh,
But we sit next across from like Ashley Furniture,
okay.
so.
Awesome.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
Very nice.
It's, yeah,
Well, good
easily
luck.
accessible, but it's a nice little private spot back there, so.
Close to the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Rough.
Commission, your next order of business is boards and appointments, and I know that you have several of those, and so Vice Mayor, if you want to run through each of those, I think, Janet, each one of those will have to be voted on separately, is that correct?
Yes.
We
Okay.
can't run the whole block.
Right.
Okay. So, Vice Mayor, I will be more than happy. I'm going to make the nominations for the first 6 boards, but we'll vote for them separately. And to the public, we've had, I don't know, over 100 applications, which was really great.
Awesome.
And we had a workshop where we went through in depth, and I know we all talked to many of the applicants. So the first board is the Board of Dwelling Standards and Review, and these are 3-year terms. And we're nominating Micah Colley and Jenny Lockmiller. I put that in the form of a nomination.
Do we have a
Do
second?
we need a second on that? Yeah.
Second. We have a nomination and a second. Any other discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
The second board is the BrightRidge Board of Directors, and this is a reappointment for a second term for Mr. James Smith. He is our current chairman, and that is the nomination.
Do we have a
Second.
We have a nomination and a second. Any other discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Okay. The third board is the Johnson City Convention and Visitors Bureau, 3-year terms. There are 2 reappointments, Stephen Bales and Brian Browder, and then a new appointment of Stephanie Dickerson. And that will be fulfilling an expiring term, and that term will be completed in 2024. So
I'll make
she's
it.
stepping in somebody who left.
That's a motion.
That's
So we have
motion.
A
I'll
motion
second.
and a second. Any more discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
The fourth board is EMS, the Board of Directors. These are 3-year terms, and you may have to recuse yourself, Dr. Fowler. You're nominated to serve on the board, and Nikki Van Buren.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
I will abstain.
The fifth committee is the Health and Educational Facilities Board. These are 6-year terms. I think this board may meet once or twice a year as needed. And the 2 nominees are Christine Loveday and Hope Matee,
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
in the
Any-
form of a motion, so.
That's, any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And the last one I'll nominate is Housing and Community Development Advisory Board. It's a 3-year term. Barry Drummond and Lisa Tipton.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. All right.
You do.
Next.
No, you
So I'll relieve Commissioner Brock and take over. Making a nomination or a motion to approve these appointments to the Johnson City Development Authority. The first 2 are going to be serving 1-year terms. That would be Seth Thomas and Robert Williams. In addition, there will be Shannon Castillo and Aaron Murphy for 2-year terms. Ernest Campbell, who will fulfill a full term expiring in July of 2024, and then 3 people that will serve a 3-year term: Hank Carr, Jim Fickley, and Jack Simpson. Is there a second?
We have a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Let me just mention that all of these terms were kind of expiring at one time, and so we felt like staggering the terms was going to be really
Yeah.
important. So even the 1-year term, you'll be up for reappointment at the end of the year, and we'll go into
3.
3-year terms after
Or-
that. Right.
Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Stay.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Moving to the Johnson City Public Library appointments, I make a motion for Jennifer Dixon and Thomas Kendall to be appointed for 3-year terms.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
For the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, these are 3-year terms, and I'm making a motion for Joe Bradley, Jim Hughes, Jonathan Kinnick, and Don Shepard to be appointed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
For the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission, for a 3-year term, I make a motion to reappoint Jamie Pavlich.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And as Mayor Joe Wise would say at the end of a proclamation, and the part that we've all been waiting for, the last appointments for Public Art Committee are Sarah Carrier, Michael Anthony Fowler, Lynn Govett, Caitlin Linkus, Sam Love, Katie Murphy, Spicy Pate, and Linnea Salinas. And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I will second that, and at the same time say we had over 25 applicants for the Public Art Committee, and I think it speaks so highly of the work that this committee has done for our city. And doesn't Johnson City look better because of the art and the plants and all the things that it has brought to us? So,
And just to say also, we appreciate everybody who applied for every one of these. These are citizens that are applying for boards and committees that help the city of Johnson City. And if you were not on this list of people who were appointed, we really appreciate that you filled out the application and volunteered to help with us, and please don't stop volunteering. So, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And I think the applicants will roll over to our next
We'll continue.
appointment in January. Right.
Commission, your next order of business is the consent agenda.
All right, I guess I will start on my right
Oh.
tonight.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Murphy, anything you would like to pull?
Yes, sir. I would like to start with item number 6.1.3. Item number 6.3.2. Item number 6.3.10.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
All right. Commissioner Brock?
I will pull 6.1.1, just for an update from, I see Ms. Fogel back there. And also, if Mr. Pinzola would just address the, we'll do it under 6.3.2, but the overall cost of fuel for mowing all the property that we have to mow, and just so the public can understand that.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. And Commissioner Hunter?
I don't know, is there anybody from the schools here tonight? 6.2.1 and 6.3.9, the AP exams and the minibus, or would you be, I mean, I know you sit in those meetings.
Debbie Dillon's here.
Okay, great.
What was
So,
your second one, 6 point?
3.9, and then 6.4.2, and 6.4.5.
I don't have a 6.4.5 on here.
It's, you must be missing the page.
That's 6.5.
It was West Oakland,
Oh,
at least on,
It's 6.5.1 on mine.
I was looking on the
oh, it is,
electronic
it
one.
is missing.
West Oakland, 6.5.1 on here on the next proposal.
Okay.
So
Is that it?
6.5.1.
And so 6.4.2 I had as the overpass?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And 6.4.2 was the only one I had, so that's it, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Ball, if you want to get started on.
Sure.
In order, 6.1.1.
6.1.1, and I would ask Debbie to come up and speak about this one. I think Commissioner Brock was just wanting to let the public know and wanting more information about this
Mhm,
program.
mhm.
So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for what you do at the Senior Center.
So
My
this is a
pleasure,
gr-
thank you.
A grant from the First Tennessee
This is-
Development District.
Right,
for,
this is a yearly grant that we
Agency
submit
on
for.
Aging.
And the board has already, the commissioners have already approved the application. They went through, and our grant is about the same amount as last year. That helps with our programming, with transportation that we do for personal care shopping, and also for our in-home coordinator. That helps with our low-income and in-home services for our seniors.
So through the Senior Center, then, we can help people with in-home shopping. We'll pick up.
Yes, we go to Watauga Square every Friday and pick up them from Watauga Square, go to Walmart, and then wait for them until they're finished shopping and bring them back.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you
And
very
how
much.
much was the grant for? I might have missed that.
I'm sorry?
How much is the grant for?
I think it's
84,000?
63,000, if I'm not just gone off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
But we have a staff person.
We have an in-home coordinator staff person, yes.
And She
She is
makes,
an employee, but she also is part of this
and
grant.
she helps people find services. Is
That's
that
correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So it's a great resource that we have, and
Yes.
I believe the total is 84,700, is that correct?
That's probably better figure than my 60-some thousand.
I just wanted to make sure we had correct
good-
information out there to
So
the
we like
public.
that grant.
and if it's not, he owes you the balance, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll hold you to that. We have several things coming up that we, potentially could help.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then 6.1.3,
6.1.3, and I would ask Ms. Dillon to come up if she is here to speak on, thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Oh, I'm sorry, transit, yes.
She's coming.
I can get it, that's okay. Yeah, I
It's
think so.
okay.
We hope so.
Mr. Stahl.
Yes, sir.
You're welcome to go ahead.
This is a transit vehicle, 2009 Ford, 12-passenger vehicle that's basically exceeded its useful life as far as regular transit runs. However, we have a good relationship with the Washington County Sheriff's Department with the inmate labor, and we're proposing donating it to that department. We have Chief Lowry here if you have any questions as to the specific use, but I think it's a great relationship that we try to get support. They've done a great job in supporting us within the city and over the years, and we like to continue that relationship with giving them something better than they might have, and certainly it's, again, something that can be used, but not for regular transit passengers. This would still provide a good service to the community.
Well, since I have another opportunity to get something about the animal shelter in, the inmates come up and take care of all the lawn services and landscaping at the animal shelter, and we appreciate that, so I'm very much in support of.
They do a lot of parks, right-of-ways, a lot of service throughout the community, and talking to John, as I've known him for many years, they're hoping to continue doing that, and they do a great job.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. 6.2.1,
And I would ask Ms. Dillon to come up and speak about this item. Sorry, Debbie. This is an item about helping with AP programs, advanced placement programs. 6.2.1.
AP exams.
Oh, yeah. Basically, it's really paying the invoice for them. It's kind of an annual. Yeah, that's really all I have on that. It's a sole source, and it's based on the number of students.
Yeah.
And we always check the previous resources and the fees that we've paid, and it's in line.
I think John and I, of course, used to serve on the school board, but a number of years ago, all the students had to pay their AP fees, and some of the students, it became very, very costly.
Yes.
And so the school board found money and itemized that in their
Yes.
budget to be able to pay for all AP fees.
Absolutely.
And that's to pay for the tests they have to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it may be, what, the test is
I think that will,
$85?
Something like that.
It was pretty
It's
steep.
Up to 87, and
Per
the
test.
total was $120,000 for the tests
Yeah.
that we're paying for all these students, and a lot of students involved.
and in addition, I just wanted to highlight it because that's not something that's offered in all communities. And
That's
and I
right.
think it's a great benefit to
Definitely.
our students and to our community.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. 6.3.2.
And I think the question around this one may have been the cost of
Gas.
mowing,
Yeah.
gasoline. I think we have both Andy and Phil here to speak about this one.
We have 7 contracts, and we've lost 2 contractors due to fuel price increases. So we've introducing a scaled approach, percentage basis, to cover their extra costs due to the increase in fuel. We had it in the previous years, but we didn't have it this year, and so we're injecting it at the request of the contract.
And so if the cost of fuel goes down, it self-adjusts.
Correct.
Uh,
If it goes below the original bid price at the time of the bid, then it actually would be a decrease.
Because of fuel costs, that's bumped up our total cost for mowing.
We had 400,000 budgeted, and we have, this will give us, I think we were at 340, this will bump it up to about 360 or so, so we should be good.
So we still have a little bit of a cushion, just in case.
Yes, we are doing some adjustments in the field to cover some additional areas that
And
needed it.
So we've lost a couple. Is that why it seems like some of the zones are a little over grown.
Yeah, it took us a while to get to them,
Yeah.
and then we've lost them, so
And we're
some
gonna-
of them are adjustments.
We're going to plant more wildflowers, right?
We got a bunch of sunflowers coming.
We need sunflowers, yeah.
And
Thank you.
So while Mr. Penzola and Mr. Best are here, I do want to compliment them on the work that they did in cleaning up the debris from the storm that we had Tuesday. I was extremely impressed to see the crews out so quickly cleaning up. Some trees had fallen, a lot of debris was around, and I think you all did an incredible job. I got a few phone calls from the public commenting on how well you all responded to that, and I just wanted to say thank you.
City manager gets the good phone calls, we get the bad ones.
Did we get a lot of debris in the stormwater system? A lot, yeah. You didn't come to my yard, though. I had to clean that up myself.
All right, and next, I think, is
And-
6.3.7.
6.3.7, did we have that one?
Yes.
Police uniforms?
Police uniforms. Commissioner
Yes,
Murphy.
I have talked, and I don't know if Major Rice, if you want to speak to this, but I have talked, so annually, this is a contract that we have in place to be able to order uniforms and the equipment necessary for the police department in terms of their uniforms and boots, and it's time to renew that. I will say that we are looking into the police department in order to alleviate some issues and concerns around the back health by wearing a lot of equipment around the waist. We are looking into and have some demos of vests that can be worn so that the equipment is distributed around their weight and hopefully will reduce some of the injuries. So we have some demos that we're working on, that the police department's working on, utilizing to see what would be the best fit for the employees. So we will be going back out to bid on some of that equipment in order to make sure that our police department employees are safe and are able to do their job to the best of their ability.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
reduce injuries to them.
Thank you, Ms. Ball, for the update. I had questions regarding uniforms for our law enforcement. Looking at our bid sheet, there were 9 bidders who were disqualified. I just wanted to know what was the reasoning for them being disqualified, why their bids weren't accepted.
I think Major Rice, can you speak to that, Major Rice?
Commissioner, typically when people are disqualified, they're not meeting the bid specifications, whether we're using a particular style, cloth of a uniform. A lot of people come in order to try to cut cost, they'll try to bid out an item that just doesn't meet specs. So typically, that's where the disqualifications come from.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just appreciate it. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, 6.3.9.
That item is for Central States Bus Sale, 4-passenger minibus with lift. And I'm not sure if Mr. Stahl has that one or Ms. Dillon.
I think it's a school one, yeah.
Oh, is it a school one
Yeah.
as well?
Sorry.
We should have parked you closer.
I think you have another one, too, over here.
So, when I was on the school board, we started a summer reading program, and you may not know enough about this, but where we used an old, what do they call them, for the athletic buses? The
Activity
activity
bus?
buses to start the summer reading program. And I'm guessing this is an upgrade or addition
Yes,
to? or-
they're using ESSER funds, and basically it has a lot to do with what's available and what their needs are. We were very fortunate. We solicited, there's many vendors we reached out to. We were suspecting it would be a sole source because no one has anything available, and we're very fortunate. This one's actually in stock and ready within a couple weeks, 2
Well,
to 3
that's
weeks.
good to hear, and also like
Yeah,
to see that
very
it's
much.
actually handicap accessible as well.
Yes, yeah.
And for the benefit of the public, the ESSER funds were funds that came down from COVID
Yes.
CARES money, but that's what they're called in the school system, so
Right.
they've put their money to very good use.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. You may stay for one
Stay.
more here.
Okay.
Next, 6.3.10.
And that's the Breezeway security screening for Town Acres Elementary. And I think Brian, actually, Mr. Ross may be here to speak about that one.
That will help.
Yeah.
Might be bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I had questions regarding this new breezeway. I would actually like to see what it looks like before casting a vote on it. And then also, I understand it's funded out of PEP, that's People's Education, planned or? Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that for the education of the
So I don't
public?
have any, I'm not familiar enough with the funding. I don't think I could answer that question. Could you help, Randy?
Yeah, I can address the PEP funding, and Janet's the expert at the PEP funding. But 1/4% of our sales tax is put into this education funding program to do capital projects for our schools. That's the funding source that was set up a number of years ago so that we could continue to keep our schools up to date, modernized, and the way we need to do it. Now, how it works is the money comes in from the sales tax, 1/4% of that goes into this fund. The fund can only be used to pay debt service. And so when you issue bonds for school capital projects, the debt service that comes back off of those funds is paid out of the PEP fund. And so this project was issued in a bulk with a lot of other debt bonds that were issued. And sometimes when we have projects that are issued, that we issue bonds for, that may be, and I'll use this just for rounding purposes, like $100,000 of bonds that we issue, and then the project comes in and only takes $90,000. There's $10,000 left that can be applied to another project. And so this is a project that we were estimating to be about $200,000. So that was what was put into the bond issue, and it came in about $385,000, I think, is what the project was. We do have pictures that I can email to all of you to show you what it is, but basically it's a bronze translucent at the top, but it's a bronze panel that's going along at Town Acres under the canopies that are already existing, because Town Acres was built about 50 years ago, or a little over 50 years ago. And so it's built in 3 separate round pods, and the kids have to change classes by coming out onto an outside sidewalk and going into the next pod, and it's separated by, one of the longest spans is probably 40 or 50 feet. And so we're putting these panels on the outside of that sidewalk under the awning that's already there, and just enclosing all 3 of those circular pods so that you have an interior courtyard, so that the kids, when they're changing classes from pod to pod, can't be seen from the exterior of the property.
And this is a security.
And this is a security situation. There's already a fence there now, but it's like a wrought iron fence. And it's very easy for people to jump over that wrought iron fence and do all that. So this security came up, this concern came up probably 3 years ago when we had a joint school board meeting with some city commissioners who toured the facility. And one of the other things is there's plans in place that in a few years, when some more debt falls off of the PEP fund, that we're going to look at building a new school at Town Acres. But we've got to let some debt fall off of that PEP fund in order to cover the debt service based on the amount of revenues we receive.
Janet, when did the PEP fund begin?
Oh, goodness, that was in the 90s.
In the 90s? I just for the benefit of the public, there are some things that commissions do that have long-term impact on the
Early
city.
90s.
And earmarking a quarter cent of our sales tax to this fund. If y'all go around and look at Johnson City schools, that's why we have such wonderful facilities. Would you agree with that?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a commission way back in the early 90s made that decision to do it, and so it will stay with us in perpetuity, I guess, but it really has been the thing that's made all the difference in the world in us being able to do school projects and build new schools.
Absolutely. It's a great funding source that you have a way of repaying that debt service through the sales tax.
Right.
Well, and
that's been tagged
if
there.
I remember correctly, it had to pass by referendum of the people,
It was voter referendum.
which also speaks to the commitment of our entire citizenry to education.
And there's a long history of capital project lists that you can look back to and see the improvements that's been made. All these additions that we're doing to move 5th graders back into the elementary schools, all of that was funded by PEP funds.
Thank you.
And with the height of things that are happening within our country, I would hope that we are assessing all our school properties to make sure we are secure. There are some we have open, and fencing the entire property would probably be more safe than not having any fencing. But I say all that to say this: security is a major concern for all parents within our city.
And we're taking that into consideration. The construction and capital projects that we're doing on the other schools, we're hardening the foyers and making those a lot more secure with cameras and access controls. Any new buildings that we build, we're taking all those security measures into play with that. And we've also got a meeting scheduled, a joint commission meeting with the city commission and the school board to discuss more security measures and moving forward to consider a master plan to look at our school campuses to see what we can do to improve the security there.
It's the 18th of this month.
18th of this month, that's correct.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Mr.
questions?
Tribbitt. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Ms. Ball, next, I think,
Yes.
is 6.4.2.
The next item, I would ask Andy Best and Phil Pinzola to come up. This is for the CSX Railroad overpass. If you will update the commission.
Yeah, this is
Answer
an
any
adjustment to the appraisal reports. We had a meeting with TDOT, and they requested that this additional information be updated in order to correspond with the date of the condemnation. We have 5 condemnation cases, so that's what these adjustments are for. It's about $100 apiece.
Is that any delays back on the project for TDOT?
You want a project update? Design is underway. We have one adjustment to make on a drainage system. So they're moving forward with the bridge design. We will then have to, these condemnations will secure all the property except for the railroad right-of-way. But we need to get the bridge designed so that we know exactly what we're asking for.
Do you know how many properties are left that we have to purchase that we haven't purchased yet?
The 5 condemnations take care of everything.
That's the last.
Other than the railroad.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get things wrapped up by the end of the year and then hand it off to the state they're asking. So that's a good sign. Means that they may speed up the construction.
That's great.
Thank you. And last, I think, 6.5.1.
And again, that's Mr. Pinzola for the West
This
Oakland
is,
Avenue.
as you know, you put $2.5 million in for the upgrades to Oakland and Mountain View. We're waiting on final design work done by the apartment complex or whatever it is, because they're gonna do a lot of the grade work where the roadway is changing. This is the bridge that crosses the creek, and this will actually be charged off to stormwater to upgrade the structure to handle a 100-year storm event. So we have to get a design done because we don't have that capacity internally.
This is Oakland and Austin Springs at that intersection.
No, I think this is up.
This is just down from Hanover. It's near where the
oh.
dog park's going.
And is this
So we're
part
Close
of
to the
a,
animal show.
is this part of a larger project on West Oakland, or is it just the bridge area? Or?
This is just the bridge. We're designing the road internally. And so that design is pretty much done.
Okay.
There probably will be a couple of acquisitions that need to be made on Mountain View. Mountain View will be phase 2 of that project. But I have to wait until the apartment complex starts their grading, because they're gonna grade a lot of the right-of-way because we're moving the road completely away from the existing road. Then everything will be 3-lane with sidewalks on both sides.
Is that the Knob Creek side or the Mountain View side where they're grading?
Mountain View side.
They're grading off of Oakland.
Oakland.
It's Oakland, not,
And that's
not even
in
all
the
the way out
curve.
to Mountain View.
It's
before
on
it
the
becomes
internal
Mountain
next
View.
to
Gotcha.
whatever,
Well, the
Prestige or something.
The West Oakland expansion will be from State
Hanover.
of Franklin, Hanover, all the way to where it connects with
The first phase will
State
be
of
up
Franklin.
to Mountain View, where it's already kind of 3-lane, that sort of thing. The second phase will be Mountain View. Things could change if we run into issues, but I think we have to acquire a couple of slivers of property on Mountain View.
Glad to hear that's moving along. And while we're on that general vicinity, can you speak on the Knob Creek part that y'all are working on right now, next to the State of
Yes, we're
Franklin?
adding capacity to the left turn movements. If you're coming southbound, which means you're coming from the railroad track, the underpass, it's backing up already. We're adding capacity, so it'll be double left turn movements in both directions. And so we gotta widen the road a little bit, so that's what we're working on. Gonna be
So that will take place pretty quickly.
That's
that part.
ongoing today.
Okay. So for the folks who live out in that area, are we talking end of 2023 for the rest of the road improvements, or will it be longer? or-
I won't start until, yes, by the end of '23, that is correct.
Okay,
That's good.
okay.
So I'll start in probably January. I gotta get through some other projects.
Well,
You guys got me loaded up here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Make
Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of ordinances. I would ask Ms. Dillon to make her way to the front as I read this ordinance. It's an ordinance to increase the threshold over which the public advertisement and sealed bids are required in accordance with the Tennessee Code of Annotation, Section 12-3, 1212, by amending Title 5, Chapter 1 of the Code of Johnson City, and to repeal all ordinances and parts of ordinance in conflict herewithin. And before Ms. Dillon starts, I would just say that as a part of the state approval, this limit got changed, and we are just requesting the same authority that was approved in the state legislation.
Yeah, we are fortunate. It's only specific to entities that have a centralized purchasing department and a full-time purchasing agent. So to align with the state, because of our charter, we need an ordinance. But yeah, a lot in the state have already began the implementation. So we've been waiting on this and working on this, our statewide association,
For a long
for
time.
years, many years, probably about 4. So we were watching it and we were very excited when it finally passed, yes.
So this will enable us to respond a lot quicker.
Yes.
And with supply chain issues.
Yes,
be able
ma'am.
to-
So it affects about, I did some rough numbers, about 30% of the bids that come to you will be affected, and it's like, I'd say 35 solicitations. However, as you've seen in this environment right now, the quicker you can get your orders placed and you can get in line and move with pricing, the better off we are. So I think it just gives us another tool to be able to enact and keep our supply chain coming.
Good.
Yes,
Long time coming.
yes. Ma'am, yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Any further discussion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner
you,
Brock?
Debbie.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the next order of business is the first reading to consider assigning the B4 Planned Arterial Business Zoning District to an approximately 4.8 acre territory along the 4500 block of the Bristol Highway proposed for annexation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. I just want to remind you where we're at with this. We are currently right here, and this is the first reading of the zoning assignment. So later tonight, you will hear the preliminary resolution, but right now we are talking about the zoning assignment associated with this annexation. So in front of you is a request for an approximately 4.7 acre territory located along the Bristol Highway. The applicant is seeking a zoning assignment of B4. Currently, in the county, it is split zoned. So as you can see, this purple right here is commercial, and this back piece right here is residential. And a little bit about the site history. This site has actually had 3 denied commercial rezoning attempts in Sullivan County, the most recent being December 2021. The county staff did recommend approval. There were 10 yeses, 2 abstain, 7 no, and 5 absent. In the county, they would have needed 13 yeses to pass. So a little bit about the zoning assignment. Again, they are requesting B4, and their plan is to do RV sales. And I do want to remind you guys that with annexations, this is actually non-binding. So there is no concept plan attached to this. Again, it is currently split zoned in the county. It is really bad practice to bring a lot in and split zone it. And because this lot is a Bristol Highway fronting lot, we are recommending the B4 as well, because there's access to this commercial corridor. So residential for this piece is not really realistic because it's on, again, the Bristol Highway. There will be a type 2 landscape buffer requirement where it backs up against the residential piece right here. And I want to take a second to just talk about the future land use map. So the future land use map that I have in front of you proposes actually what is currently zoned essentially in the county, which is commercial on the front half and residential on the back half. Now this map is intended to be used for a little bit more broader zoning purposes. This map really does not have the ability to get down to the specific parcel line. And so what the future land use map is actually trying to say is what I just told you. It's saying that things along the Bristol Highway should go commercially because of the nature of the Bristol Highway. And it's saying that this back half that actually faces North Austin Springs Road is intended to be residential, which is what it's showing right now. And so that's where the recommendation from staff comes from for approval. Again, the only access point to this lot is on the Bristol Highway. So a little bit about type 2 buffers. This was a pretty big conversation at the Planning Commission level. This is what a type 2 buffer looks like when you're actually on the ground. And this is an aerial of a type 2 buffer. So you can see the minimum requirements for a type 2 buffer that, again, is going to be required no matter what they do, no matter what development goes in there, the zoning code will require this buffer. And that can either be a 20-foot wide buffer or a 15-foot wide buffer, depending on if they place a fence or not, with type 1 evergreen trees. And that's for every 100 feet, it would require either 14 or 8, depending on, again, if there's a fence or not. Here's some photos of the property. Again, just like I told you guys, it does back up to residential property. So you can see if you go to the very back of the area, you can see over into some houses. This area right here, where there's dirt, would be where that buffer is placed. And again, just some more photos of the property. They do currently have RVs on the front half of this lot. So this piece up here that is currently zoned commercially in the county, there are presently RVs on it, which is okay because that is the bit that's zoned commercial. And this back half right here is what's empty. So that's the residential zoning that they're hoping to get commercially zoned.
So, well, the picture's here too. So where would the buffer be from that aerial?
So the buffer would be required to be back here.
And that's where it's proposed by the owner?
Yes.
Can I add some comments? I went out there yesterday and spoke with the owner and walked the property, as well as met with a couple of the residents in the homes back there. He's already planted the buffer, and there's also a land buffer, so he's not going to go all the way back to the property line. There's probably a good 75 feet, maybe 100 feet of just land he's not going to use, and so then in front of that, that's where he's already planted Leland cypress, a good stand of them all the way across the property.
Okay.
And he wants to make this, a very compatible and be a good neighbor, as he said to me.
Good.
I spoke with the neighbors down below, and 2 of the neighbors have good stands of pine trees already there. There's one where you can see a little bit of a blank, but in all likelihood, he'll have to put up a fence. He'll have security on that property anyway, an attractive fence along the property line. But yeah, when he added the extra space there, I think it's really was an added value to this project.
I was going to say they have their stormwater right in this bottom corner as well, which kind of acts as a natural buffer in and of
Right.
itself because, I mean, there's no development going in the stormwater.
Right.
But again, just some more photos of that property. I'll have to go back out. Last time I had spoken with them, and when I went out, they had ordered them, but they hadn't planted
They're
them yet.
in. I saw them.
So staff is recommending approval. The Planning Commission recommended approval. They actually took this to the Strategic Subcommittee to discuss the zoning, just to make sure that there wasn't a maybe more compatible zoning district. Again, a big conversation was buffers, and we determined that the only way to actually increase that buffer requirement would be to zone it more intensely. So that would be your I-2. And as a committee, we discussed that I-2 was not appropriate for this site, so that the B4 would be the most appropriate zoning.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion?
Well, I guess just for the general public that may not know I-2, what kind of things might go in there that would be more or heavier in intensity?
Anything commercially zoned. So you could have, a store go in right there. And that would generate a lot more traffic than RV sales.
Right. And the industrial could have,
And the industrial could have a whole lot of things. It could have manufacturing, it could have outdoor storage, it could have just about
Yeah,
anything.
lots
That's
of-
what I was looking for.
that's what Commissioner Hunter was asking about.
Thank
so.
you.
So B4 would be much more appropriate for that.
Right.
All right.
And this is an expansion of an existing business that is
Yes.
across the street.
Yes, so the applicant is actually the business owner of the business across the street and next door. And so he is a city business. His property is in the city. Not this one, but the current business property is in the city. And so he's looking to expand and bring
But-
his expansion into the city as well.
It's in Sullivan County, but it's in the city of Johnson City, which is weird, but that's
Well,
true.
the property that he's currently trying to annex is in Sullivan County, and then the
Right.
property across the street where he's currently running his business,
Mhm.
that is in the city. That's,
It's in
A city
Washington,
territory.
the line just is right
I
there.
know, it's
yeah.
right across. So,
oh, I see what you're saying.
so it will be in the city, but it will still be in Sullivan County.
Right.
Okay.
He'll just need to keep his property tax bill straight.
Any further discussion? Do I
I've
have a
certainly
motion?
encouraged the owner and the neighbors to stay really in close contact with each other, and I think they'll work together to make this happen, and everybody's
And Commissioner,
compatible with what's
I would
happening.
love to remind everybody, and I'm going to actually go back to the first slide, that public hearing for this item will be on August 4th.
Good, thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
On first reading.
Have a motion and a second. Anything else? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. Ms. Ball,
I
7.3.
apologize.
That's
I had a
okay.
terrible leg cramp, so I had to get up and stretch my leg for just a minute, or else I might cry.
We just finished 7.2.
Okay. The next order of business is the first reading of ordinance number 4815-22, that to consider assigning the B4 and RP3 zoning districts to approximately 30-acre territory located at the loop of Boat Dock Road proposed for annexation. And I think we have Peyton again. Thank you, Peyton.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So I actually have 3 annexations in front of you all tonight in the same place. So this is going to be in the same spot that the previous annexation was. So again, you're looking at the first reading of the zoning assignment, and the preliminary resolution will come in front of you later tonight. So we are talking about this property. It is an about a 30-acre property out over on Boat Dock Road, and it's located just on the lake. And they are seeking a zoning assignment of B4 and RP3. So as you can see, they're requesting RP3 on the back half, and they're requesting B4 on this front half closer to Knob Creek Dock Road. Again, there's no concept plan required here, but they do plan to do townhomes, a restaurant, dry boat storage, and houseboats. This is non-binding, but they've been in contact with the city for quite a while, and the applicant actually lives right across the lake and looks into this property. It is currently zoned commercial in the county. The whole thing is zoned commercially, so proposing residential on this back piece would actually be a little bit less intense than commercial. And again, although this isn't binding, here's an idea of sort of the concept that they're talking about. This would be that back residential piece. They're looking at doing potentially 86 townhomes. And then a restaurant, some storage, a couple houseboats. Staff is recommending approval, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
And we'll get a little bit more into the discussion about infrastructure in that area and what we may need to be taking a look at.
Yes, ma'am, that would be for the preliminary resolution,
Right.
which still comes later tonight. This is more for the zoning.
All right, any further questions? Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the next order of business is ordinance number 4817-22, an ordinance to rezone approximately 15.11 acres from A1 district to R4 district to build 108 rental townhomes.
I think we skipped
I think we
7.4.
did.
Oh, I
7.5,
apologize.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Seven-
7.4.
Mhm.
An ordinance number 4816-22, which is first reading to consider the assignment of A1 agricultural zoning district to an approximately 10.2 acre territory located at the termination of Ridgetop Drive, proposed for annexation. Thank you, Patton.
Once again, good evening, Commissioners. And again, this annexation is in the same process, in the same step that the other two were. So we are discussing the zoning assignment this evening. This is the request. It is a 10.2 acre tract. Again, like Ms. Ball said, it is at the termination of Ridgetop Drive, and the applicant is seeking a zoning assignment of A1. Currently, it is residential out in the county. Again, there's no concept plan required here, but there are plans to do just one single-family home. And the future land use map proposes residential, but because the intent of this land is to be used residentially and they can put that single-family house, agricultural does seem appropriate. It's at the back of the neighborhood, so you wouldn't have to drive through agriculture to get to residential. They actually originally had requested to come in as a residential zoning district, and we determined that we could not provide the infrastructure to support that request, and so that's why we bumped that down to agriculture. So it's a little bit less intense, and it will be able to be fully supported by all the city services.
And this is at the top of Garland Farms in the back of that neighborhood?
Yes, yes, sir.
So they were good with the
Yes,
zoning
ma'am.
change?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything
Staff
else?
recommends approval, and the Planning Commission recommended approval.
All right, thank you, Peyton. Do we have any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any further? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And now we have 7.5. Ordinance number 4817-22, which is a first reading, is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519 entitled "An Ordinance to Adopt a Code of Laws and Ordinances for the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewithin, and amendatory thereof by changing from A1 architectural agriculture, I'm really off, sorry, district to R4 district on a vacant land on the west side of Suncrest Drive between Gray Station Road and Gray Commons Circle. Thank you.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Hodges.
Good evening. I almost rushed up here like, that's mine. So the site is before you. It is zoned agriculture, and it's within the city, but also located in Gray. So it's this large tract of land here. What they would like to do, as it says in the title, is to build 108 rental townhomes on these 15 acres. Just to kind of give you an idea, it's a gently rolling piece of land that, I have some pictures here kind of just to show. But this would be the site plan. So they're going to have a type 1 buffer along the residential area here. They're not really required to have that along the commercial, in the borders where it joins commercial. It is private roads is what they're proposing with this concept plan. So they have two entrances that will have decel lanes and be able to kind of get people off of Suncrest Drive quickly. There are some things that are still missing on the concept plan that they will address by the public hearing, which they need to show the correct setbacks, some parking totals, just write down some site data stuff about density. But their density would be allowed to be up to 7. They're not showing 7 units an acre. Or do I have this one right? I may not have that one right. 1 second. Their density is right at, they can go up to 14, and that's what it is. They can go up to 14, and they're only showing 7. So that's something to note. With a concept plan, though, should they change anything, they would have to have a concept plan amendment. They also need to show their stormwater locations, which likely will be back in here. There's some things that are on the Planning Commission will need to discuss a little bit, but I kind of want to bring it to your attention, is that this development will also have to be timed with water and sewer, or with sewer especially. So they will not be able to start until, it won't be something that they can start immediately. The school bus stop will need to be kind of maneuvered in there, as well as the transit has noted that we don't necessarily serve this area for busing. So that would be that could be an additional cost to this development, but it's already in the city. And that needs to be kind of noted. And then there are some other things like some screening with the corridor overlay. And they'll take that into account when the preliminary plat is when that goes before the Planning Commission. More of my vacation slides of kind of what this looks like. And what you can see of the road if you haven't been out or up in Gray in a while. The current land use, they're kind of just saying is A1. But the future does call for this to be commercial. Staff feels as though that residential could also be appropriate in this node because there is residential around it. And the high density part or the higher medium density part would be compatible. Because it is supported, those types of things are supported in the bridge plan as well as in the strategic plan of encouraging a mixture of housing types. There was a neighborhood meeting where 2 adjoining property owners came and spoke. There was also some public comment at the Planning Commission meeting, so I anticipate some public comment next on July 21st. And additionally, we received some phone calls, and I've encouraged anyone who has called to either get in touch with the commissioners or show up at the public hearing and let their voices be known. Staff recommends approval with some modifications that will likely come with the public hearing, and the Planning Commission recommended approval.
So this is already annexed into the city, so.
Already annexed into the city.
All we're doing is the zoning.
Yes.
Okay.
It's currently A1.
It's currently A1.
All right, any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything else? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
It's going to rain.
It's gonna rain.
It's gonna rain.
Thank you. Commission, your next order of business is an ordinance to rezone approximately 20 acres located at 1262 South Rhone Street from B4 district to RP5 district, and this is ordinance 4818-22.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
All right, Commission. In front of you, I want to go ahead and start with a little bit of the history behind this project. This is the rezoning associated with the relocation of the John Sevier Center. So I have a little bit of the history on the screen. I'm not going to bore you guys by going through that right now. But the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this is that this is a long process that the city and LHP have entered into an agreement on. And there are several steps to this process. What we're focusing on right here and right now is going to be the land use and the zoning. There is a much larger conversation around this, but our decision tonight is a conversation that should relate back to land use and zoning. With that, the application in front of you is a request to rezone the property from B4, which is our planned arterial business district, to RP5, which is our planned residential district, to build 145 apartments for low-income residents that are either disabled at any age or over the age of 62. And again, this is intending to serve as the future home for the current John Sevier residents. The concept plan is in front of you. Again, it's 145 one-bedroom apartments. That is a density of about 20.4 units per acre. The RP5 does allow up to 27.2, so they are a little bit under that density. There is ample open space and walking trails, as you can see around. Again, it's for low-income residents that are either disabled or over the age of 62. And there is a phase 2 potentially in the future that they haven't really gotten into or worked out, but that is associated with this rezoning. And so any sort of phase 2 of the development that does come forward in the future potentially would have to come back in front of you all for a concept plan amendment.
And that phase is included in the 20 acres. That's not in addition to the 20 acres.
Correct. So the current land use is commercial, and the future land use proposes commercial. But I do want to take a second to talk about why a high-density multifamily is appropriate at this location. First of all, this is really close to transit, and so that's going to be really important for the intended use of this building. Because of its proximity to transit, it's essential for these individuals to get places that they need to go if they may not be able to drive or own a car. Additionally, it is adjacent to a grocery store, so you have close proximity to food, you have close proximity to a pharmacy. It's nearby sidewalks, so it's very accessible. So even though this does recommend a commercial land use, you almost need an area that recommends a commercial land use because of the need for proximity to commercial resources. Here are a couple photos of the property. And again, you can see it's right by that Food City. There was a neighborhood meeting held. There were 6 members of the public in attendance. The concerns were about the potential congestion at the entrance, property security, future property management. Staff and Planning Commission have both recommended approval, and I would like to remind everybody in the audience that public hearing will be at the next reading on July 21st.
Is this property in a floodplain or flood zone, or has that been looked at?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
It's not in, but they've done all the due diligence to do that, to take care of all the water problems.
Okay, thank you.
Peyton, the road off of Roan Street, is that a private drive owned by Food City, or is it a public road?
I believe that it is an existing easement. I don't think it's public.
It's private, but there's a dual easement owned by the owners of this property in addition to Food City. So the owners of this property, and I don't know if anybody's here from LHP, but it's my understanding, oh, yes, hey, you want to come up and talk about that, the access?
Sure.
Yes.
Should I do that now or in a bit?
Come on up.
Hello, Commissioners. Good evening. My name is Talal Shakarshi. I'm here with LHP. To answer the question really quickly, there is an existing easement, non-exclusive ingress, egress, access easement that provides our property the same access rights as Food City.
Okay.
And that means, you said non-exclusive, means that there's no restrictions as far as the usage of that.
Correct. Sorry, Peyton, didn't mean to steal your show. Should I hang out here?
Yes, in case there are more questions, that'd be great.
Right here then.
Thanks to law.
Peyton, anything else you've got?
That was my presentation for you
That
all.
was the end. All right.
Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval.
All right, any discussion? Any
I'm
vote?
assuming unanimous as far as?
Yes, it was unanimous.
Discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion for approval, first reading.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Yeah, hang on. And maybe there's another time that's more appropriate, but the concept plan that's presented here, I mean, there's some really, really nice features that will include particularly up close to the Food City entrance, a bio pond, a collection of stormwater and wetlands and a lot of landscaping, along with looks like a fitness trail that kind of goes around the complex. So a lot of good open green space, in the plan. That's all.
Anything else? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
I'm going to abstain from voting on this matter to be consistent with how I voted with the Regional Planning Commission and my involvement with the JCDA and also closely working with the residents of John Sevier. So again, I will abstain from voting on this matter.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is item 7.7, ordinance number 4819-22. This is the first reading. It's an ordinance to amend Articles 6, application of regulation in the City of Johnson City zoning ordinance to allow encroachment into the front and side setbacks for commercial accessory structures in the gateway overlay. Ms. Hodges?
Hello. So what I would like to do with this one is paint a bit of a picture of an issue that was brought to us by a couple of people who were trying to figure out how to do some things on their site. And so one of them is the owner of the Chick-fil-A on West Market Street, and the other was the Guitar Center in on State of Franklin. So but to look at it, we're going to take a little bit broader picture. So Johnson City is a place where we get around by cars. We just do. And on occasion, we have some places where we have two streets, or we have whether a building can front on two streets, or we have a place where something acts like a street and feels like a street, but it's considered their frontage. So when you have some of those, it makes it really hard, or it presents certain challenges to developing a site of where you're going to put, in one particular case, it's an awning or like a canopy. So oftentimes it's where you're going to put dumpster enclosures because you don't want to put your dumpster enclosure necessarily up against a street, but you also don't want to put it right at your front door. So those are some things that we were working through at the Planning Commission. So for them, I gave some examples around town of where this occurs. This is kind of getting a little bit more of like on State of Franklin, of where we've got some double frontage lots or things that act like double frontage lots. So you have this issue of like, how do we deal with this, and what have we done in the past? So the Planning Commission took this to a subcommittee, the Legislative and Land Use Committee, to kind of study it further. And what they decided was they wanted to take a conservative approach at this and really just look at one corridor in particular, which is the Gateway Corridor, and that's West Market Street as it comes into town. And when they did that, they're looking at non-residential lots and these commercial accessory structures. So it's basically saying that whatever you use as this commercial accessory structure needs to match what your building architecture kind of elements are. It cannot exceed the height of the principal structure. And canopies that are used for drive-through restaurants, this is the only place in the ordinance that is actually mentioned. Canopies are usually associated with gas stations, and that we were just trying to kind of narrow this down a little bit. That those could encroach into a front setback up to 50% or into a side setback up to 25%. Because there are multiple zoning districts along each of these corridors, and so this gives a percentage ratio rather than a hard line, which we thought was really important. And then with dumpster enclosures, that they're on street-facing sides, that they need to meet the minimum setback and cannot encroach in a buffer or in the landscape yard, so that you're still kind of screening them from the street. Because that is the street, whether we like it or not, is a public asset, and we really want to present, that's what these gateway corridors are about, or all of these corridor overlays, is kind of making sure that we're not putting the unsightly things in our kind of ways into town. So that's what this ordinance is about. I could certainly take any questions or however you would like to do it. But the Planning Commission wanted to move forward with just this overlay at this point to see how it goes, to see if it's used a lot, and then if it needs to be added to different overlays or into other places in the ordinance, we could move so from there.
Further discussion?
I think y'all have done a good job in the planning commission of studying this and trying to kind of solve an issue that maximizes the land use for an owner.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, this has been a very complex issue that you guys have handled very carefully and well. So thank you for that.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fallon?
Yes.
Commission, your last public hearing is a third reading of ordinance number 4811-22. It's to consider assigning the R4 zoning district to an approximately 7.2 acre territory along Lone Oak Road, proposed for annexation. We have Peyton again. Thank you, Peyton.
This is public hearing.
You guys have gotten to work out tonight.
I know.
And they got more coming.
I know, I'm back again, and I'll be up here for a minute. All right. So, Commission, going back to our timeline, we are here at the third reading. So, just a reminder, both this and the final resolution are public hearings this evening, and this is our final action. So, whatever you take on this item tonight will determine its status of being in or out of the city. So again, just to go back over this item, you guys have seen this a couple times now. It is a approximately 7.2 acre territory located along Lone Oak Road, just north of Cherokee Elementary School. The applicant is seeking a zoning assignment of R4. Again, the R4, you can do up to 14 dwelling units per acre. There is no concept plan that is required with this. The applicant has expressed interest in doing townhomes. This is non-binding. It is currently zoned A1 in the county. However, it is adjacent to existing R4 in the city, and it's across the street from R2. The future land use map does propose that this be residential. Staff believes that residential is appropriate for this site. So staff recommends approval of the zoning assignment, and Planning Commission also unanimously recommended approval of the zoning assignment of R4.
And this is not one that would require any kind of buffer because it does abut Cherokee's elementary school.
Correct.
It does not require one.
Correct, and it abuts, on the other side, it abuts what would be the same zoning district, and you don't have to buffer between the same district.
Thank you. And this is public hearing.
This
so
is.
I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance 4811, please come forward.
You stood up, you're going to have to now.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. We move into the other.
Yes. Commission members, your next item is 9.1, final resolution and public hearing. To consider approval of the final resolution calling for a public hearing of the proposed voluntary annexation and plan of services for approximately 7.2 acre territory located along Lone Oak Road, just north of Cherokee Elementary School. And just as a reminder, this is the item that you previously had the third reading on.
Once again, hello, Commission. As a reminder, you are on your final step. This is the annexation of approximately 7.2 acres just north of Cherokee Elementary School. The applicant is no longer seeking a zoning assignment of R4. You guys just granted that on third reading, so if you do approve this annexation, it will come in as R4. This was the plan of services. The biggest note would be that cost for sewer extension. And then I have the estimated yearly tax revenue for you all. Staff recommends approval, and Planning Commission recommended approval as well.
And we do public hearing on this also?
And this would be public hearing, yes, and I'll go back.
All right. Anything before I go to public hearing? All right, I will open the public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak, please come forward. And seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I'm at your there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve. At the same time, Ms. Ball, I think it would be good if we could talk with the school system and at least figure out how we might put some fencing and buffering. It's at the top of a hill over the top of Cherokee School, that we could give some security up there and figure out something. And with that, I'm good. I'll
Okay.
make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Your next order of business is 9.2, to consider approval of preliminary resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed voluntary annexation and plan of services for approximately 4.8 acre territory located along the 4500 block of the Bristol Highway. And again, thank you, Peyton.
It's me again. Hello, Commission. All right, just to remind you guys, we are going back into those 3 annexations that are all in the same process. So you all just voted on the first reading of the zoning assignment a little bit ago, and now we're talking about the preliminary resolution. And as a reminder, the preliminary resolution is the resolution that calls for the final resolution and the public hearing. So this resolution will call for the public hearing on August 4th. So again, to remind you all of the request, A&L RV Sales is requesting to bring their approximately 4.8 acre territory into the city. This is right here. It is in Sullivan County right now. And if you all approve this preliminary resolution, that public hearing will be on August 4th at 6 p.m. The applicant is seeking a zoning assignment of B4. The plan of services was included in your packet. There were no standouts from the plan of services. Services could be provided to this territory fairly easily. Staff recommends approval, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the plan of services.
It remains in Sullivan County, though, just in Johnson City.
Right.
You said it's in Sullivan County now. Yeah.
And it will still be.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion?
This is public hearing?
No,
No.
August 4th. will be
Call for
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Gotcha, yeah.
August 4th.
Correct.
Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have-
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is to consider approval of a preliminary resolution calling for the public hearing on a proposed voluntary annexation and plan of services for an approximately 30 acre territory at 149 Boat Dock Road and an adjacent unnumbered parcel.
Hello again.
Hi, Peyton.
All right, so again, just a reminder, we are at the preliminary resolution. The request is for an approximately 30 acre piece. Again, this is over on Boat Dock Road on Boone Lake. And again, this public hearing would be on August 4th at 6 p.m. as well. The applicant is requesting a zoning assignment of B4 and RP3, as we previously discussed. The plan of services is in your packet, as well as a breakdown of the financial impact analysis. And staff and planning commission both recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. I think my question is for Ms. Ball. I think you and staff have been working on the financial impact. Maybe you could just kind of run through that with us and give us a...
Sure. In conjunction with the development services staff, as well as the other departments that provide services, anytime there's annexation that occurs in an area, part of that annexation means that the city will agree to provide some upfront capital cost as well as ongoing operational cost. So we have been doing a deeper dive, and as you've seen tonight on the agenda, there are a number of different developers or parcels that have requested to be annexed into the city. And we want to make sure we can continue to provide services to our citizens in the city as well as those that are annexed. So part of that is looking at the financial responsibility of adding these, as well as the additional revenue that will come in. So in each annexation, we're working with every department to understand the impacts to our infrastructure as well as to our public safety services that we provide, and to understand overall how we can continue to work with them. In this example, we have evaluated the roadway from Bristol Highway to this development to understand the cost of maintaining that infrastructure, in addition to looking at the revenue generated from it. So this is a collaborative effort, including the school system. We had a work session earlier to talk about the process in doing that. And in moving forward, we will continue to try not only to, which has always been done, is to provide a plan of services which outlines how we will provide services, such as trash collection, roadway maintenance, water and sewer, but we'll also be looking into possibly any potential upgrades in infrastructure cost, such as upgrading a sewer lift station or something like that as a result of doing that. In this case, when someone annexes into the city, we would anticipate that they would expect to get the same level of service as our current citizens. So in the evaluation of this piece of property, you can see that the road comes, Knob Creek Dock Road comes off of Bristol Highway, and there's the bridge there that we have evaluated and looked into the cost in the future of replacing that bridge, and then some sewer and water that cross that bridge. At this point, we are still in the process of evaluating that, and we will bring you additional information. But based on what we know about the project, we are recommending approval at this time.
In commission, I am happy to bring forward any additional information that you may want at either the second reading of the zoning assignment or at the final resolution.
Is that bridge something that is kind of, getting close to, we would have to make some repairs or replacement anyway?
We have been able, yes, I mean, we are talking with the MTPO to see if we can get it on a state-approved list of bridge replacements.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal would be that by the time that it got to the end of its useful life, that we would be able to include it on a state-funded project so that we would get 80% covered by the state. So we're having those conversations with the state at this point. The bridge appears to be, and I don't think Mr. Pinzola is here anymore, but he's looked at the bridge. It appears to be in good condition. We just want to continue to make sure that we can maintain the infrastructure.
Anything else? Any more questions for Peyton? Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Item number 9.4, Commissioners, is the consideration of approval of a preliminary resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed voluntary annexation and plan of services for an approximately 10.2 acre territory located at the terminus of Bridgetop Drive. Thanks again, Peyton.
Thank you, Peyton. This is your last one, though.
Yes,
correct?
our time together is
Very
coming to
good.
an end, Commission.
Very good.
And again, a final reminder, this is the preliminary resolution for an item that you previously heard for the zoning assignment. And as a reminder, the request is this 10.2 acre territory at the termination of Ridgetop Drive. This public hearing will also be on August 4th at 6 p.m. if you choose to approve this preliminary resolution. And again, as a reminder, the applicant is seeking a zoning assignment of A1. The plan of services was included in your packet. It has been reviewed by all of the applicable departments and agencies. And staff is recommending approval, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval of the plan of services.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
And Peyton, the Bodock Road, the public hearing is August 4th also. Is that what the date? Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yep, these three are just moving through the system together.
I think your
Thank you.
star needs to
Thank
be.
you. Appreciate it. And last.
Yes, Vice Mayor. It is an honor to bring this item forward. It has been with the great cooperation of Washington County Commission and the governor of the state of Tennessee. that we have been working on renovation of the Ash Street Courthouse. This is an item to consider an agreement for the contract of deed between Washington County and Johnson City, Tennessee, for the conveyance of all the property tracts located at 401 Ash Street. Again, this is the discussion of the county conveying the property to the city. You have in your packet the terms of that, transfer of property. And again, I would just say that I'm very grateful to be in a community that wants to work together to preserve history, that wants to appreciate the governor for giving $5 million to the city to renovate this building so that it could give back to the community, and look forward to this event occurring with the commission's approval.
I will say this is regionalism at its finest. To see different groups come together, partner to have this dream become a reality. So I'm pleased with today to know that we could finally get this deal done.
Anyone else? I know we have some people signed up to speak about this. Are we going to vote before, or we want them to speak?
Well, this is just a deed transfer, so
Right.
I would suggest we vote.
Okay.
And I will certainly make a motion that we accept the deed transfer into the possession of Johnson City, Tennessee.
I'll second
A
that.
motion and a second. Discussion, this building has been a courthouse, a bank, a post office. It's been our 911.
A jail.
It's been used, a jail. We've had a lot of usage of this building. It's just been in disrepair lately, and does have a new roof that we're reimbursing the county for doing that, and we can use part of our money that we're getting from the governor for that. So we're all happy that we've gotten a chance to make this building beautiful again, so.
And
Right.
we are underway. We haven't voted yet, but
That's correct.
maybe, Randy, you want to just give us a quick update about the status of things?
Absolutely. It's an honor to be able to give you an update on this building. They've been working on asbestos abatement. They have nearly all of that mitigated. They're ready to start some demo on some interior walls that were added that were not of the original plan. The architect has completed the construction documents, and they've submitted those to the state, or to the city planning and building code for review. And it's also been put on the agenda for the Historic Zoning Commission for their meeting in July.
And their function,
For the historic zoning
right,
would be for the exterior
Okay.
construction that we're putting on.
okay, the
building.
new addition
The
then.
new addition,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay. And could you make some comments about how the restoration is, I mean, you were doing everything in the world to restore it to its historic levels.
Absolutely. The building was built in 1910. And there was some additions that were added on to the building throughout the years, with the latter one being 1965, and that addition that was added on was added on for the space that was put in, just to add more square footage to the building. And when we were reviewing this and coming up with the drawings on that, the 1965 edition had a different floor elevation. And in order to make this building handicap accessible and to add an elevator and add an additional set of exit stairs from the second floor, it would have taken up all that space with those elevations to build ramps in there and to change it. So it just made a lot of sense for us to demo that 1965 edition on the side of where Ernest Street is at, add construction to build a new lobby with an elevator and a stairwell tower, to make the building accessible to, ADA accessible for commercial and public use.
And the exterior on that side, on Ernest Street, is going to be a park-like setting there?
Yeah, the Walnut Street
Pedestrian.
the Walnut Street corridor plan has Ernest Street having trellises and benches and gathering spaces, and it will be closed to traffic. It'll only be open to pedestrian and bicycle traffic. And coming from Walnut Street, coming from ETSU down Walnut Street, that'll be your access to go down Ernest Street through to Cherry Street to the sidewalk on State of Franklin. that'll get you to the downtown area to crosswalk Buffalo and State of Franklin. So it's designed for pedestrian and bicycle flow that way without having to go all the way to Buffalo Street. The Union Street side that's been closed for a long time on the other side of the courthouse will be reopened as a vehicle street so that people can come from Ash Street to Walnut Street. And it'll also be used because this conveyance that you're considering tonight not only takes in the courthouse and the property that the courthouse sat on, but there were 3 tracks. So the 2 tracks are part of the Union Street and going in a little wider. So right now the designers are looking at doing some parking along Union Street, whether it be parallel or angled parking, and making that parking handicap accessible on that side of the building as well.
Found any surprises yet?
No. but in reality, all we've really been doing right now is just asbestos abatement and trying to get all that cleared out. And so they've had the building closed off so that no one can actually go in there with the air handlers and the air controls and everything that's in there. But since we've got the drawings completed now, the contractor, the design build team is working on more detailed cost on what it's going to take to complete the drawings as they're designed. And so they'll bring those back to us, and so we may have to look at changing some of the drawings a little bit as far as the interior renovations and the things that we're doing inside. But our goal is to just restore it back to the open concept that it had and have everything flow with the space inside that was originally built in 1910.
I do want to make one final comment before we vote. This has been an amazing project. But the most amazing thing is that that building sat there run down for years and years. I grew up here in Johnson City and went into that courthouse and applied for different things from a marriage license to tags. So in its heyday, it was a beautiful building with the marble steps and the brass and everything that's in there. But it was in such disrepair that if it had gone much further, it would be one of those buildings like we ran into with Langston, that part of it had to be torn down. So we went to the governor in 2019 with a plan on how to try to save that building and see if we could get some state funding. We've never asked the state for anything before. And we went down, and the first thing we showed him was the West Walnut Street corridor. I was there and went with Mr. Peterson to talk with him. He was so impressed with the West Walnut Street corridor, and he's very impressed with Johnson City because he has seen how downtown has changed simply because of a stormwater project. And when Founders Park came in, it changed the whole formula of downtown. And this is what governments do. They do infrastructure. And that's what we've done downtown. And then the private sector invests. And that's what's happened down there. So when he saw that, we went ahead, we asked for $5 million to renovate that building. Now, at that time, we weren't sure what it was going to cost. And at that time, had we been able to do it all at that time, it probably would have cost less than $5 million, but now it's probably going to cost more than $5 million, just with the way prices have gone up. But we left, and he kept asking questions, and he asked us to send back, he wanted his own copy of the West Walnut Street corridor blueprint. And we sent it back. And within a couple of weeks, we got the word that they were going to do an appropriation of the full $5 million. Well, it was a pretty happy day for all of us up here, just going like, can't believe this is happening. What we proposed to the governor is that the West Walnut Street corridor is going to become an area where different things can happen. The kind of west end of West Walnut Street is very close to ETSU, and probably a lot of features there that would support that. The middle link is where the mill is, and a lot of retail and other business, and that the east end of West Walnut Street could become kind of an incubator for small businesses. That we want to become here as a part of our strategic plan, if you look at it. that we want to be known, we want a reputation that we have an ecosystem here in Johnson City, that if you want to start a small business, the resources are here to help you do that, from advisement to linking you up with an angel investor to, the digital kind of media that you need. And so we propose that the biggest part of this building would help us build that ecosystem to support small startups. And it's already happening in Johnson City, but of course this building hasn't come online yet. And he really, really liked that proposal. And so we got the $5 million. Then COVID hit. And so the $5 million got taken back. Well, we were pretty dejected at that time. It's got, okay, well, what are we going to do with that building? It's sitting right in the middle of this corridor that we are getting ready to invest $30 million into. 30 million or more?
Or it's more.
It's gone up now, we know that. And so it's such a huge feature of that corridor. A year goes by, we receive word the $5 million has been restored. And so, and we have it in the bank, right?
Right.
It's here. We're not having to go ask for it anymore. So to be able to bring this building online and to restore it to its grandeur, and for it to be a vital part of our economic vitality, the number one feature of our strategic plan is economic vitality, then quality of place. Then, what's our third one? You know, John. Future-ready infrastructure, that's what we've been talking about here. And then efficiency in government, effectiveness in government. So the economic vitality thing, we are checking a lot of boxes, with the Street Courthouse, plus quality of place, to have a beautiful, beautiful building that was built in 1910. Now, I'm going to say one last thing, and I know I'm taking a lot of time, but that building would never have been built if it hadn't been for a man named George L. Carter, who we have the Carter Railroad Museum. And the federal government funded the original building. It was to be a post office. And there were two factions in Johnson City. One wanted it out in the Carnegie area, and Mr. Carter wanted it over where it is currently right now. And the federal government said, well, we can't build it there because there are no sidewalks and there's no kind of road or kind of the foundation of it. And Mr. Carter, on a weekend, brought people in and built the sidewalks and built the road and actually started pouring the foundation for that building. So, and he's a man who also, hadn't been for Mr. Carter, we wouldn't have ETSU as well. It's a little recognized person, but I hope in some way we can honor him in this building. But I just want to say that I couldn't be more proud of what has happened and what the state has done to help us with this. And it's going to be a great ribbon cutting one day that I hope we all are extremely proud of, and that we have this building so that it can be, have some multi-use, but its main function has to be with the economic development. So anyway, thank you for putting up with me.
Anyone else? We made the motion on that, didn't we not?
Yeah. Ms. Jennings, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes. And now we have people that would like to speak. They've signed up in the back. You have about 3 minutes apiece to talk, and if you're going to repeat something that someone else has already said, we appreciate you limiting your comments, and it should be about the Street Courthouse and the deed coming over from the county to us. So, all right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Cross, George Cross.
Commissioners.
Evening.
My name is George Cross. I live on West Pine Street in the Tree Street neighborhood of our community, and I'm also a member of the Southside Neighborhood Organization, which is known as SNOW. SNOW's been a stakeholder in West Walnut Street in past projects and things that have come through there, and we have also had members involved in this process also in some of the initial feasibility of the project, and everybody is very excited. We're living right on the boundary of this whole area, and we want to thank the commission and the city staff, everybody that's put in a lot of work and thinking, forward thinking, to keep things moving from way back when, maybe starting with George L. Carter. It's still going on. So thank you very much. We do have 2 requests that we want to make as an organization. One is transparency. I understand there's going to be a request for proposal process on who will use this building, how it will be used. And so, being neighbors to the project, we're interested in that process, and we would request that it's a transparent process for the citizens. Also, if there's going to be a board or a committee selected to manage the RFP process, both implementing the RFP itself and then managing the process as it goes along, that there be some community or citizen involvement in that also. And that's respectfully our request.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You very much. Next, Rob Phipps. He is getting up to
He
come talk
is,
this time.
yeah.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Rob Phipps, 834 West Locust Street, and I'm the SNOW president for the Southside Neighborhood Organization. So at the risk of violating your one rule, I did want to thank the County Mayor Grandy, County Commissioner Jody Jones, and all the commissioners here.
Absolutely.
You're not violating
Absolutely.
anything. We are with you. Thank you. Yes.
But so I think to our point, we've met multiple times. Our last meeting that we had, we've talked probably at length, 30 minutes about this and how passionate the community is. We did do our best to. I think we only have 3 speakers or so here, and we've all we have a petition online that we've had people sign so they could provide their feedback without having to be here and take up your time tonight with 10 stories all saying the same thing. So we did want to be mindful of that for you all. I think the transparent RFP process, that's one of the things we really want to see. We're super excited about the conveyance. This is going to be such a positive thing. I think we share everyone's vision of this being the jewel of that West Walnut corridor. And so I think, one of the things we would just hate to see is it be locked or closed after 5 p.m. and things like that, where no one could come see all the beauty that it's all being renovated to. But at the end of the day, I think all we're asking for is that transparent RFP process, and that I think that there's no plan for the property to be sold or conveyed to a non-government entity. Not that I think that's in the works, but we just wanted to kind of distill all those members that we had into to one easy list. And then I think in addition to that, if and when the current tenant who wins the RFP process, if they decide to move on, that we just re-implement that same RFP process to get another really great neighbor and tenant who can live by the mission that the city has outlined for it. And so I guess one of the things that I also will promise to do is to send you all the petition that people have signed. We have about 50% of our active members who have signed it already. So there's a lot of passion and a lot of excitement about how the community, and not just the Tree Streets or the Southside Neighborhood Organization, but how the whole city can come down and enjoy that West Walnut Street corridor, and this being one of the public use buildings that could be available to them. It's really an exciting thing for us in furthering the neighborhood feel. I know we have one of the last remaining neighborhood schools, and I think this building is, again, another beautiful relic of the past that we're hoping to see restored. I think that's all I have.
We appreciate it. We're as
Thank you.
excited as you are, I promise you. So we're liking that. So thank you again. Sherry Carter.
Good evening. It's actually Cherie.
Cherie,
I'm
sorry.
really happy to be here with you guys. I think honestly that we live in the best city, in the best county, in the best state, in the best country in all the world, which is why we are so excited for this historic project, and we know that you guys are going to do an incredible job. We would just like to encourage you. We know that when setting up the RFP or the request for proposal, we know that the building came with, as you mentioned, a charter to promote local economic impact, community benefit, and community access. And we just want to encourage you to kind of open your minds a little bit. If you would like to, you can reference the RAND study of 2005. It's just one example that will show you that whether it's shopping local or investing in children, the latest economic research shows no higher return on investment. We're talking for every dollar that you invest in children in our community, you get a return of 4 to 7, depending on the age. And personally, I believe, especially given the current climate with women's wellness, etc. There's really no stronger investment than the investment in families and community and parent-child bonds. So this is the one project in all of a $33 million, you know, which you guys deal with lots of numbers, right? But us as a community, that's a big number. And people may not realize that this project alone, this one building, it's 1/6 of that entire project, practically, you know? So we just want to use that money really wisely. Obviously, you guys know. But to ensure that economic impact isn't just measured in dollars, in future revenue, but future generations. So thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Good
Sheree.
point. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, I think that's everyone there. If you're talking about the courthouse, yes.
Will there be a public, like, is there another opportunity to speak from the public to my motion, or?
Only for things that are on our agenda tonight.
I can make it about the Ash Street Courthouse.
So the Ash Street Courthouse, by the way, I'm Jeff Clark, 2326 West Brook Plain, just off Oakland, great place. I'm excited for the Walnut Street development. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be bring a lot of people. That is, if we can keep them safe. And I fear that, you know, we're attracting all these people with this investment and in the Ash Street Courthouse, but we are also neglecting to renovate another of Johnson City's mainstays, and that's our police department, with our chief, who is...
Mr. Clark,
That's
you're
not
here
on
to
our
talk
agenda,
about
so-
the Ash Street Courthouse, and that's all.
Well, yeah, no, I am. I'm talking about the fact that no one's going to feel safe with a chief who denies rape.
Yeah, that is, we appreciate you
We'll
being
ask him
here,
to sit
but
down.
you're gonna, that's gonna have to be the last of the discussion on that.
If you have a concern outside of this, you can email us.
Yeah,
or
we're
give us
open
a
to
call.
email, and cell phone numbers are published, and you can let us know what you think.
Okay. Would you all be willing to talk after the meeting?
We are,
We are not, we have been advised by our attorney, because we have a pending lawsuit, that we should not speak about this. We appreciate you coming, but we are not at liberty to be able to talk about this. We appreciate your concerns.
My calls and emails weren't returned. Don't listen to them, they're lying to you. Yeah. We'll be outside the way we talk to you.
What's the lawyer?
I think public hearing's over.
Yeah, I need to just close it.
we're just closing the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Clark. You can sit down or whichever. All right.
See y'all outside.
Anything else tonight? Ms. Ball?
No, thank you all very
Close
much.
the public hearing.
I
Thank
didn't
you
know.
for everyone who came.
Okay, good. Be adjourned?
We are adjourned.